Shalom, shalom and welcome to the White Rose Family Channel. If you're tuning in for the first time, my name is Symmanayah. Let's get started. This series is called Rise of the Judges. It is designed to take the sting out of the word judges and judgment, for these are processes that are necessary to refine, to perfect the set-apart body of Yashar'al, also known by some as Israel or Israel. And I'm talking about a nation of people, not a geographic location. In this segment of Rise of the Judges, I want to bring to your attention the need to be mindful of ego removals. Ego removals. It's time, my brothers and sisters, for us to identify and discover why ego removals are necessary. Sit back for a minute. Let me just give an example. We believe, most of us believe during these end times things will get intense. That movement will come in some way, shape, or form. Our current locations, we will become displaced. Those who will take part in the final exodus know that they must move to get to the promised land. So with movement in a sense of urgency and the conditions describe the tribulations become extremely intense, that means we're going to meet up with those that we were not around before. If you believe that, now what if a group starts to move and start merging with another group, but there are guards before they allow one group to merge with them or to come closer or allow you to come closer? There are guards that will examine you in your group. So imagine how you would feel in a time such as this. We hear people using terms of bug out bag. So I'm going to use that for an example. How would you feel if you spent all this money, got this beautiful stocked and organized bug out bag, and you're getting ready to approach a group and you want to enter into that group or into that house or into that community as you begin to start journeying in the direction that Most High would have you? But someone is guarding the entrance, guarding the gate, or guarding the group. And they ask you, what do you have there? And you say, that's my bug out bag. Well stocked. And if they ask you, what's in the bag? Let's examine the contents of the bag. How would you feel? Now, what if they discovered within that bag and you weren't paying attention, it was sitting somewhere open and you got bed bugs in that bag, fleas or ticks in that bag. And they tell you, no, you got to take that bag off and it cannot come into our group, into our camp, into our community, into our house. But you spent all this money and they're preparing at a pace that they don't have time to argue with you. They don't have time to watch you go clean out the bug out bag of bed bugs, ticks, or fleas. They want you to just drop that bag, come on in, because there's a lot of people coming into the group. How would you feel about such an experience I just described? Now you might say, what does this have to do with anything? Stay with me as we unpack this subject matter, my brothers and sisters. I will share with you how there's a relationship between letting go of that bug out bag, cleaning the bug out bag, and how you're treated, and how you treating those who telling you to let's examine your bag. Before I get into this subject, I want you to once again be mindful, if you're tuning in for the first time, these are verses that I present to you, Yashar'al, verses that deals with judgment. There's a time to judge, there's a time not to judge. And I want to give you some examples so you would be aware that I am familiar that there are different circumstances and situations where the Almighty Father will direct us to judge or not to judge. And the addresses to these verses are coming from eSword that I'm getting ready to give you. Proverbs 31:9, Ezekiel 20, verse 4, Matthew 7:1-9, Luke 6:37, John 7:24, John 8:15-16, and 1 Corinthians 2:12-16. I want you to be mindful that I am aware of these passages. And some speak of judging, some speak of not to judge. Let's get into this subject now. Let's define ego. Ego is a person's sense of self-esteem or self-importance. It can also be called the part of you that is engaged in self-justification. Whatever the matter of one's ego is judged, one can discover that pride is close by. In other words, whether we use the word ego or another, usually where there's one with a big ego, pride is close by. Let's define pride. Pride is a word closely associated with ego. Pride is a feeling of deep pleasure or satisfaction derived from one's own achievements, the achievements of those with whom one is closely associated, or from qualities or possessions that are widely admired. I find it interesting that the translations of the scriptures appear to have avoided using the word ego, at least the translations that I've been reading. Instead, I find the word pride is indeed in there, and I believe ego is associated with pride. So come with me to two scriptures that mention pride and ask yourself and see if you can agree that one's ego can be placed close with the writings that talk about pride. I'm not trying to rewrite scriptures, my brothers and sisters. However, I want to bring attention to the functions of the words that connect to scriptural instructions. For example, Proverbs 8:13 says, "The fear of Yahuah is to hate evil. I have hated pride and arrogance, and the evil way and the perverse mouth." Do you think ego is in there somewhere? It doesn't state ego, but do you think that with pride and arrogance comes a fat ego? And he talks about how Yahuah hated. Proverbs 11, that was 8:13. Proverbs 11:2 says, "Pride comes, then comes shame, but with the humble is wisdom." When we face with dealing with pride, my brothers and sisters, when we face with dealing with pride, I believe the ego is close by. There's more to read. Proverbs 16:18 says, "Before destruction comes pride, and before a fall, a haughty spirit." Are we not aware that the prideful one is just a matter of time before they fall? They will fail at what they're doing, or some will fail and still fight to the end. But I want to encourage you, my brothers and sisters, the disciplined power of the Almighty Father will come before us to remove egos, to put in check pride. And it is for our benefit that we may be perfected into unity as a set-apart family, as a set-apart nation. Come with me, my brothers and sisters. To 1 John 2, verse 16. 1 John 2, verse 16 says, "Because all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, the pride of life, is not of the Father, but is of the world. I pray that we're able to see that where the word pride is written, ego is close by. Discern the connection. Discern the function of what the scripture is saying. Egos must be removed, my brothers and sisters. Whether the word pride or ego is used, in either case, be prepared to witness their removal. It may be painful for some, but if we begin to look at the other side of that correction, the other side of that discipline, if we are seeking to grow stronger and mature and set apartness, my brothers and sisters, then we should welcome the process of ego removals. We should welcome the process of putting pride in check. Come, my brothers and sisters, take a look at Romans 12:3. Romans 12:3 says, "For I say through the favor which has been given to me, to everyone who is among you, not to think of himself more highly than he should think, but to think soberly as the Almighty One." It says Elohim. That's plural for Almighty Ones. So it's by choice I choose to say the Almighty One when I see that. "Has given to each a measure of belief." Too many of us think more highly of ourselves than we should. Too many of us want to hold on. It's like holding on to that bug out bag. I spent so much money, I don't want to let it go. But just as in some cases you will be ordered to leave that bag behind, in some cases we'll be ordered to leave that ego, that pride behind. In other words, let's say a brother or sister that you think has been walking in set apartness, and the two of you have never really gotten to know each other, and you come to the gate and says, "Yes, me and brother so-and-so or sister so-and-so are ready to join this group as we migrate to fulfill the final exodus, or as we get closer together during these end times." And then the guard asks you, what's inside that brother or sister? What are their positions of belief? How do they stand when it comes to serving the Almighty Father? And if you say, "Well, I know they're Israelite. I know that's my brother or sister," and the guard asks you, "Well, did you examine them? Did you vet them?" "No, not really." And then you start asking the person that is accompanying you that wants to get into the group or move into the house or move into the camp or community, and you start questioning that person that you brought. And that person say, "Well, I don't believe Yahusha and Yahuah are one. I don't believe in Yahusha." And all of a sudden, they tell you that that person you brought cannot come into the group. You see, my brothers and sisters, you would feel bad if you thought that you was close to this person, but you never really vetted them. You really never got to know them. You thought you knew them, and you didn't. And then the question comes, would that person be open for correction and reproof? If not, they will be told to stay back. But you would be allowed entrance. How would you feel, O Yashar'al? We need to really get to know one another, to know if egos are in the way, if pride is in the way. If an individual thinks of himself more highly than he should, could this be one who faces an ego problem? By using the title Ego Removal, it is my intent to bring to light that judgment, that in judgment such behavior must and will be removed from among those who will be considered the children of obedience. It would be wise to begin to recognize and appreciate rise of the judges, individuals who will render judgment, execute judgment, as Yahuah orders, through his set-apart spirit sent in Yahusha's name. It will be wise to understand how discipline is necessary for the gathering of a set-apart nation. Let us begin to see the realities of what it takes for ego removals. All too often, we neglect to identify what it takes to bring unity. But remember, the Almighty knows. For in Revelation 3:19, he says, many as I love, I reprove and discipline. So be ardent and repent. Yashar'al, oh Yashar'al, end times are here. We glaze over so many scriptures because we don't want to do the work. And sometimes because our own egos are in the way. Judgment and discipline tend to be avoided too often. Without judgment and discipline, egos would flourish. Be mindful of 1 Corinthians 5:6. 1 Corinthians 5:6 says, your boasting is not good. Do you not know that a little leaven leavens the entire lump? So if we let somebody with an ego problem, puffed up with pride, remain in our midst, we have a destination of failure and destruction. For the scriptures read, no house divided, no nation divided against itself can stand. It also talks about it in Galatians 5:9. It says, a little leaven leavens the whole lump. Are we trying to destroy the group that is coming together in unity by making and tolerating egos and compromises? Without actions that work towards ego removals, we would clearly see the behaviors of those with big egos cause their bad habits to infect the assemblies. I submit to you, where there are compromising communities, camps, groups, and assemblies, etc. In most instances, the leaders are the one with a big ego. The leaders with big egos. Judgment will come, and the discipline of Abba Yahuah will be magnified. Without ego removals, there is no doubt division is present. And remember, no house or reign divided against itself can stand. I cannot emphasize that enough. My brothers and sisters, take heed. There's much work to be done to perfect the set-apart family of the children of Yahuah. It would be wise to see how without ego removals, there will be divisions among us. So we must seek to discern the work that is required for ego removals, the work that is required to put our pride in check, to deal with those feelings. Come with me to Matthew 12:25. Matthew 12:25 reads, and Yahusha knew their thoughts. He knew their thoughts and said to them, every reign divided against itself is laid waste, and every city or house divided against itself shall not stand. So let us be mindful, my brothers and sisters, if we're tolerating and participating in compromising groups. Is it a group that allows compromise in different positions of belief? Or is it a group that's a work in process where we see the discipline and the refinement coming from the Spirit of Yahuah, working in us, through us, one towards another? That's the difference than those that just tolerate wickedness, evil, disruptions. Iron sharpening iron is one thing. Causing mass confusion and just fighting and causing grumblings and disputes is another. In Mark 3:24-26, it reads, and if a reign is divided against itself, that reign is unable to stand. And if a household is divided against itself, that household is unable to stand. And if Satan has risen up against him and is divided, he is unable to stand, but has an end. Who or what do you think brings down a divided reign? It is the power and might of the Almighty Father. Take a look at what is written in Proverbs 3:11-12, my brothers and sisters. It says, my son, do not despise the discipline of Yahuah. Do not loathe his reproof. For whom Yahuah loves, he reproves, as a father the son he delights in. Abba Yahuah's spirit comes in Yahusha's name, as it is written in John 14:26. It would be for our betterment to recognize how discipline comes and through whom. Yashar'al, Yashar'al. Let us be mindful of the realities of the challenges that we face. The time is now to identify why ego removals are necessary. The time is now to seek to discern and act accordingly with those whose egos are disrupting the set-apart family. Do not fear. We must rise up and discern what is ordered of us regarding ego removals so that much more can be done, my brothers and sisters. It's not about feelings. It's not about good intentions. It's about seeking to worship and obey the Almighty Father. It's about walking in set-apartness. Have the discussions, my brothers and sisters. Judgment will prove to bring discipline and ego removals, or should I say the removal of these big egos. Yashar'al, oh Yashar'al, end times will get intense. For some, it have already reached our doorsteps. For others, the appointment time will come and prove the need for us to learn what it takes to remove these egos and step into one another in unity and set-apartness. My brothers and sisters, you might think this subject is not important, but make no mistake, in the discipline of the Almighty Father, egos and pride will be put in check. And that check may cause the removal and the purging of some. That check may bring about severe discipline. We don't control what method the Almighty Father will discipline his children, but we do know that he will make examples and set lessons for us to learn. In addition to the lessons we are to learn now through reading his scriptures and witnessing them come alive. Yashar'al, my brother, my sister, have the discussion about egos. Don't just laugh and say, oh, he got a big ego, she got a big ego. It's a serious matter, my brother, my sister, my family. Have the discussions of how do we keep it in check? How do we keep each other in check? And how do we move into set-apartness? How do we navigate through the discipline of the Almighty Father? How do we support and recognize being renewed? That inward man being renewed as promised by the Almighty Father. If you listen to me from beginning to end, I salute you and I thank you. I am glad that you are in pursuit of set-apart instructions that may indeed strengthen you. Strengthen Yashar'al. For in due season, we will witness a set-apart body like we never imagined. And there will be no big egos to be floating around. For the purging will come, corrections will come. On that note, my prayer is that you're doing okay, my brother, my sister, that you are encouraged, that I've said something encouraging to you that draws you closer to the Almighty Father. If you like anything that I've said that contribute to you being encouraged, consider subscribing, share, like. Don't take something good and not share it. If it's indeed good, you're the judge, my brothers and sisters. I ask that you consider that the person you share this with may gain something as well. They may get something that you miss. Let's take advantage of YouTube's algorithm, my brothers and sisters, and spread the word. Good set-apart instructions, if indeed you think that's the case. Enough on that. Be encouraged, my brothers and sisters. Our redemption draws near. There is much work to be done, and we will witness the promises of the Almighty Father become very real before us. I end by saying, Shalom to you, my brother, my sister, my family. Shalom.